So for the people that do not know me, my name is Rizgar. I'm the operations director at Sciential. I also work as a consultant on projects. Um, a lot of you already know Sciential. We're a digital marketing agency specifically focused on the life science industry. I always say I'm not going to give you a sales pitch during this valuable time that I have from you. I think we should just dive into the content and the topic budgeting. And if you want to know more about us, we'll just send you some follow-up information. So yeah, starting about budgeting. The reason we are talking about is, of course, time-wise, it makes sense. A lot of you are asking us questions. What should we allocate our budget to? How do I balance certain costs, for example, advertising versus organic campaigns, offline versus online? And what I hope is that I will give you some more insights by diving into the trends. How do life science people budget? How much do they budget? And then diving a bit more into some detailed things such as, yeah, how do you calculate your ROIs? What are benchmarks and those type of things? So we are going to start. Yeah, so today's topics are the budgeting trends, some methods for budgeting, and then the KPIs and benchmarks that we have collected for you that we will share with you, and then the ROI calculation. So let's have a look at our industry. What are people spending these days? First of all, why budgeting? Of course, a lot of you do budgeting, right? You have a certain amount of money allocated to your projects, but if you make a more detailed budget, it has a lot of advantages for you. For example, it helps you to prioritize new projects. So if you actually write down all your activities that you have planned, you will probably see not everything is feasible, which is good because you will make it more realistic for yourself. Again, you can calculate the ROI because as marketers, we are always under pressure, right? We have to deliver results. We have to show that what we do actually is generating leads, it's generating clients, it's good for business. So from that regard, also a budget can actually help you to make the right decisions. From that regard, if you have a nice marketing project with some proposed budgets, you can share it with your colleagues or higher ups. And then also it helps you to yeah, either maybe lobby for a bit more budget or for specific ideas that you think that work. And of course, also something is effectively balancing your funds for in-house uh, teams. You have, for example, your marketing manager in the team, you have a marketing specialist in the team. Sometimes you miss some specialties, for example, for advertising, for content creation, for which you hire agencies like us. And then also the ad expenses, which can also be quite extensive. So how much are you actually going to spend on media budget for Google, for LinkedIn, for other types of things? So in the end, what I also want to explain is, of course, your marketing goal can only be reached if the yeah foundation is good, right? Um, so your budget plan is, of course, also based on all the activities. And if you have everything organized well within your activities, if you make your budgeting plan smart, which we're going to discuss later, that will all end to you reaching your marketing goals. Now, in the life sciences, what has been happening lately? Yeah, there has been a substantial growth in the recent years. I think you see that a lot because, yeah, I think competition is getting fierce, especially the biotech side of life sciences is a relatively new side. You have more competition, more companies, so you need to spend a little bit more to stay competitive. But there are also more opportunities in terms of marketing, more channels that you can advertise on, distribute your content on, more events that you can visit. But what has been happening during the pandemic is that digital advertising just jumped massively. What happened? We were all sitting at home thinking, okay, how do I generate leads? How do I get in contact with prospects? How do I generate sales? Well, unfortunately, we couldn't go to events anymore. We couldn't take the train or the airplane to the bio conferences, to Medica, those type of conferences. So a lot of companies switched to the digital advertising side. And To be honest, I think there was a healthy development because in terms of advertising spend, in terms of the maturity of digital marketing, the life science field and all fields within there, biotech, pharma, medical technology, it's quite behind, for example, retail. It's quite behind the traveling industry. It's quite behind the automotive industry. So I think it had, yeah, this in this very unlikely event of COVID, this was a positive development for yeah, I would say the business output, the marketing activities in our field. All right, so we always also get the question, how much should I actually spend on marketing in general? We had a little look at our clients, made some benchmarks, some estimations, not really benchmarks. It's not based on hundreds and hundreds of companies, let's say a sample size of 5 to 10 per category. But what we see in general is that companies spend 7 to 10 of their annual revenue on marketing. This range differs a bit because you can imagine that these large companies they visit the same events like you. They do the same. They use the same channels. But the bigger you get, of course, proportionally, these costs that you have get smaller. And yeah, the business gets more efficient. So in the revenue categories of, somewhere between 500, 2 million, and maybe also 5 million euros, dollars, doesn't matter that much per year, you will see 10 to 9% of budget being allocated, sorry, of annual revenue being allocated to marketing. And then later on, some cases where we saw that companies making 50 million a year in revenue will do 7%. Checking if there are any questions. No, no questions in between. Um, this is also a very interesting trend. It's not so much life sciences, but business to business, which of course most of the companies in life science are. Just a few business to consumers, maybe in terms of medtech and health tech. But as you can see here, um, yeah, during COVID, by the way, there was a drop in marketing spend. But yeah, take into consideration this graph also considers a lot of consumer goods. And like we know, some industries, let's say travel industry, yeah, of course, had a bad years in COVID. So I think the reduction is not so much important. It's more about how everyone has been spending more and more in the past decade, and especially in the last years, which is also a very interesting trend. So when I tell you 7 to 10% is being spent by our clients, it's also in line with what we, well, according to Deloitte, what is being spent also by other industries. So we're on the right target in that regard. Then we also had a look at data from LinkedIn. LinkedIn always publishes some benchmark reports on, yeah, what is the budgeting or spending behavior. And so business to business leaders in marketing, let's say commercial directors, marketing directors, 6 out of 10 will yeah, have been increasing their budget also. And yeah, 2 and 3 expect to keep increasing it also in the next years to come. So there's sort of a trend where more and more companies are spending more to marketing. Yeah, what is the reason actually? Could be different things. Could be competition, could be that the COVID period get a little boost towards commerce. It could also be that people are reducing sales, making some processes more efficient. You can imagine that if industries move from traditional stores to more e-commerce or online sales, yeah, of course, that will automatically also increase costs in digital marketing. So, or marketing in general. So it's not that strange, I believe, but there could also be different reasons. It's a very interesting topic to talk about. Um, so yeah, regarding budget distribution, they asked also the marketing leaders, what do you spend on, right? How do you distribute your marketing spend? And I think to me, not very surprisingly, 36% says lead generation, 30% says brand awareness. And that's a typical question, right? Always, hey, what should we do for brand awareness? What should we do for lead generation? So according to LinkedIn, it's always equally distributed between those two. Then there's demand generation, which is getting popular, right? You want to claim authority in your field, you want to provide high value content, and you want to make sure that you actually get the inbound leads because we all know that it's way more easy to convert an inbound lead than, of course, one that you have approached. So I understand that. Then there's account-based marketing, which is getting popularity, meaning you have certain companies or maybe your CRM list that you specifically focus on. That's also interesting for um, specifically life sciences because I think we're in a niche, but most of you are also in a niche. What I'm saying with that is if you have a specific analytic services, you might be targeting just companies in a specific preclinical stage or clinical stage, or the ones that are analyzing blood samples, whatever. So at some stage, how much companies do you have in your target market? Maybe 2,000. So yeah, if you already have those emails, instead of advertising just everywhere, you want to focus on them. That's why actually account-based marketing has been gaining a lot of popularity in that regard. But still, it remains difficult to balance your marketing expenses, right? How much should you spend on in-house marketers? How much should you spend on agencies? How much on media budget, content creation, software tools? There's so much to do, and yeah, a lot of you get spammed right away, probably by HubSpot or by SEMrush or by us, maybe, hopefully in a good way. But I can imagine that you just want to make the right decisions, right? And what we advise is that always do SMART goals. Are you familiar with SMART goals? By the way, I saw some questions in the chat. Yes, of course, the slides will be made available to you, and this is also recorded, so we'll send you this recording. Plus, if you have questions, please just email us, right? If it's specific questions. But I don't know if you are familiar with the SMART goals. I would estimate 80% of you are. Just to go through them quickly. When you have a goal for your marketing, probably you have a business goal. You have maybe you're the CEO, but your CEO made a business goal with the team of directors. From that business goal, which is growth, you made your marketing goals. For example, I'll get to that later, generating certain amount of leads. It's important for your budgeting that these goals are specific. You answer questions about the what, who, why, how, what are you going to do, who are you targeting, why are you targeting them. It should be measurable. How much leads are you generating? How much sales are you generating? Achievable. Um, yeah, basically make it realistic, right? It should be relevant for your long-term objective. So again, your marketing goals should be aligned with the goals from your business, and it should be time bound. Well, I think if you make a 2024 budget, 2024 is a good time to focus on. Let me see. So some examples for your budgeting goals, if you want to make them smart. For example, you want to launch a new website that will help you increase the monthly visitors by 100% in 2024. Relatively easy goal, by the way. You can make it more complicated. Reach 25% of your audience with video awareness campaigns on Google and LinkedIn. Generate 30 marketing qualified leads per month with online ads during conference. And then later on, I'll show you the benchmarks through these goals. You can actually calculate if these are feasible. Yeah, then continuing to your budget, then you can say, okay, because you can also make some smart goals for your budget. I want to allocate 20% to digital advertising this year. I want to reduce customer acquisition cost because if you make your budget and you see not everything is feasible, maybe there are some optimization steps. Maybe you have to talk about the elephant in the room. Maybe it's not necessary to go to the US with 5 people. Maybe 3 people will do, and you have a bit more budget. That's up to you to decide where you can reduce, of course. But if you reduce the customer acquisition cost, then that provides you more space. Maybe you want to recruit a junior marketer for a maximum of a certain amount. Those are just some things, that will help you to specify what you exactly want to achieve. And then I go further to the budgeting methods. So basically, We propose three. These are methods, right? It's not hard science. It's just a proposal from our side. We propose three methods to have a look at. You can either choose one or combine some of them, whatever works for you. I just want to give you some insights on what you could do. So there's revenue-based budget, where you take a fixed percentage of your expected or historical revenue. Simple, you make 1 million. You allocate 10%, that's 100,000. You can do growth-based, where you really focus on ROI. You know that certain campaigns will deliver clients, those clients will deliver revenue. So you're not so much doing a percentage, but more on output of your campaigns and the clients you get from it. Yeah, very much data driven. We'll get into that. And then there's competition based. There are cases where it's interesting just to have a look at what is your most successful competitor doing, and can you maybe implement their strategies yourself, and how much is it going to cost? Diving into them right now. All right, so revenue-based targeting, budgeting. Sorry, little mistake there. So yeah, what you can do basically is look at the advantages and the disadvantages. It's simple, right? You have 10% of your revenue that's clear to everyone. It's aligned with your business goals. It's easy to explain to everyone. It can provide some stability, but there are also disadvantages. So it's not data driven. It's also not responsive to changes. So if there are any market changes, yeah, you have to sort of discuss that again. It might not accurately reflect the marketing needs. So um, it's very much top down from, the top level. What do we want to spend on marketing, and not so much what does the marketing department actually need to reach its goals. And it can lead to over under allocating of budgets, right? Because you basically, the message to the marketing department is, this is the budget, do whatever you want to do, and it's not so much based on KPIs. So just to give you an example of how this, for which situation this would be applied. Let's say you're a contract research organization and you offer preclinical toxicity and efficacy studies. You have big deal values, big projects, typically maybe 100, 200 euros per client. Takes a lot of effort, a lot of time, research in the lab. So you have 15 to 20 clients per year. What is their commercial focus? They want to have high quality clients because, doing a project for a whole year requires intensive collaboration. And on the other side, you want to have extended durations. So if you're working with a drug development company, you want to maybe do some follow-up projects with them. Some clients say, some don't. You have a client retention rate of about 50%. So your goal is to attract 50 new clients per year. Sorry, 10 clients per year. And you prioritize stable and sustainable growth. So you're not going that fast. You just have a very clear goal, let's say 1 client per month. In terms of spends, how would it look like? Let's say the marketing budget is 250,000 euros per year. A lot of it goes to conferences, right? Because it's not so much about skill, it's really about the account. Actually, account-based marketing would be interesting for a CRO. You go to conferences, you speak to the same people, you know a bit who your audience is, you know where the drug developers are coming. In the meantime, you work with a digital marketing agency to make sure your LinkedIn looks nice. You have the certain amount of content to stay on top of mind of your clients, because when you go to the conference, you want them to actually be nurtured, right? You don't want to talk with them for the first time about what you can offer and what your value is. You have a little bit of advertising expenses, maybe some publishing, maybe you do some research that you want to publish in papers to increase your credibility. And there's the promotional material. I think it's very clear. It's not so extensive, to be honest. Um, you'll just go into Google Ads, LinkedIn ads, and some social media campaigns, and yeah, see if those efforts deliver you the amount of companies you want. Then there's growth-based budgeting. What is the advantage there? It's more precise, it's more data-driven decision making. It aligns with specific marketing objectives, and it encourages accountability and efficiency. So you have to deliver results because, like you can see, it's a very steep curve. The ambitions are high, the expectations are high. Again, disadvantages are that it's high risk, of course. What happens if you don't reach the targets with your marketing goals? You might have to cut down. You might have to have a conversation about that each quarter or each month, maybe. Typically, startup scale up phase, right? Um, it's time consuming and resource intensive, and yeah, it does require some detailed data. So the benchmarks that we're going to show you is something that you will dive into, make some calculations. But let's dive to the case to see if this would be applicable for you or interesting. When I think of skill, I think of maybe a clinical software company, or I think of a biotech analytics platform, basically things that can scale on quite fast. Um, so this company, they offer disease diagnostic solutions. They have a client base of 30 hospitals, so good establishment on the market. They want to become a market leader. Typically, they receive a big investment and they have a clear commercial focus, which is scaling fast, and they want to attract 50 new clients per year to become a market leader. So, in terms of hospitals, how much hospitals does Europe have? Somewhere in the thousands. So it's quite ambitious, basically. Um, yeah, so the team will basically go all in on marketing. They go to healthcare events. They will showcase there. They will organize their own events. They will advertise on all B2B platforms everywhere where nurses, where doctors are present. They want to target them and make sure they are on top of mind. They're doing awareness campaigns, account-based campaigns, lead generation. Um, they'll spend a lot on media buy-in on those platforms. They will publish reports. They will publish health technology assessments showing that their software is valuable for the ROI of their departments. Higher, better results with the patients, better patient flow, whatever the USPs is. They think they will have to do some scientific and maybe economic presentations on that. So there's a lot of effort. So you see that compared to the last one, where you have a few expenses, this one um, is a bit more extensive. So you'll see maybe a little bit less on conferences and a bit more spends on online advertising, right? Because if you don't have the attention of your potential audience, you're not going to convert them. Um, you see that the agency expenses can differ, where the CRO was spending more. It doesn't mean that they spent less. It just means the percentage gets less, right? The more advertising budget you have, the more marketing budget you have in general. Of course, all other costs proportionally get smaller. They publish. They have software and tools because they want to use HubSpot maybe for some more nurturing. They have email campaigns, those type of things, promotional materials, but also they might need some new website, right? If they want to convert people, they have to have a very good, extensive, good working, user-friendly website convert versus what they had before the investment. Whereas the CROs may be happy with what they have. It depends a bit on the situation. Seeing a question. Yeah. All right. Then there's competition-based budgeting. If you don't know what to do, or in terms of budgeting, or maybe your competitor, and we'll dive into that, is just doing way better than you, just have a look at what they are doing. Just see if you can literally copy paste some concepts and then improve, of course, to make yourself more competitive. The advantages is that you are capitalizing on existing success. You can easily find LinkedIn ads from your competitors. We have a previous webinar also on how to do competitor research. I can share it with you if you're interested. But if you know what your competitor does and you see that it's working, why not do it yourself, right? Of course, in your own words, in your own unique style. It also gives you competitive insights, which business-wise is quite good because you have a bit of a feeling which type of clients they attract, how well they attract them. Plus, there are also industry benchmarks available. Some companies have year reports, and in those year reports, they have their costs, right? And they describe a little bit their marketing activities. It's super interesting to read them if you have time for it, of course. Some disadvantages is that it's time consuming as in it does require extensive competitor research, but it is worth it in the end, right? Because it's beneficial. Maybe someone in a team has time to do some little competitor research for that. But I can also imagine as a disadvantage, there are resource limitations. All right. I'm not a QVia, you are not Roche. It's okay. But you can still learn from it. But yeah, you cannot do everything in the end. You do have to choose. Um, and it may not align with your own business goals, so be careful not to go to events that are not relevant. Really make sure that those are relevant. Yeah. Right. Let me see. There's a question. Is it a disadvantage to have a static website? Is it important to update, improve a website continuously? I'm going to give a marketing answer here. It depends. If you feel like your website is up to date, if you feel proud, that's just an emotional feeling. There's nothing wrong with that. You can just keep it as it is. But if you want to do a data-driven approach and have a look at your analytics, are people staying on the website? Are people converting on the website? You know, whatever you want to reach as a marketing goal on your website, are you reaching it? Yes, then I guess you have a good website. If no, then it might be time to do a website renewal in general, just to give a fresh look, just to design it UX wise, that people convert, right? They have a certain amount of content, they have the testimonials, and then you drive them through an experience where they leave behind their credentials. If your static website is working from you, then I would focus still on optimizing it anyway. There's nothing wrong with making new blogs. It's always good to share new content, some fresh content. There are things happening in the field, right? It's event season. It's maybe something new came out in your field, a new research methodology. It's always good to just keep that in mind. Another question for B2B business, having a section on the website for e-commerce specific products. Could you a good option to get some income? Do you have some cases I can check out? Are you talking about cases where you have a web shop where you are selling products? Because we do have that. If I understand your answer correctly, I can share that with you. Um, all right. Then going to the next uh, slide. Let's have a look at some KPI benchmarks because in the end you have to calculate also uh, sorry, I went too quickly. We were still doing the example. So let's say you're a supplier of biochemicals and you offer raw materials for life science research. You have a big client base worldwide. You have 1 million in marketing budget. Um, the sales numbers are dropping, unfortunately. What's happening is that you see that your competitors are getting ahead of the competition. The commercial focus is to renew and digitalize your existing marketing strategy. Maybe I've been doing the same thing. Then it's actually good to shift your traditional methods. Maybe that has been just visiting events or, you know, not so much advertising. Would be a good moment to digitalize it. And if you then for yourself not really have an idea of where to start, then definitely it's good to have a look at your competitors. And then you can also budget by channel, influencers marketing, web development, publishing, search engine marketing. So that could be, you know, Google search, Bing search, search engine optimization. Could be LinkedIn marketing, whatever it could be, which is also social. So it's a bit of a different way, competitor-based budgeting. It's more based on what you see people basically doing in the field and copying them. All right, going to the next one. So we're going to the digital marketing benchmarks again, just checking out again. Yeah. So Evelyn, we can actually have a look at that. I'll have a look at your website. It's an interesting question. I do think it could be interesting to move a section to e-commerce. We do have some cases for that specifically that we can show you. Um, my colleague once had an idea to make a benchmark table similar to the periodic table to give it a little life sciences twist. You see here basically all the channels that you can have: search engine optimization, search engine ads, email marketing, display advertising, your website, YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, and can't say Twitter anymore. It's X these days. What you see is rates such as click-through rate, engagement rate, cost per thousand, cost per click. So what we've been doing basically, and we update this on regular basis, is we have a look at if we combine all the data that we have from our the website says more than 65 clients, I believe now. By now, it has been more than 75. If we combine all the data from their campaigns, what do we see as averages for our field? Because, we're not a shoe store, we're not a travel agency, so typically the benchmarks online do not apply to us. And this is the result. So I'm going to share this slide, and you can have a look at your own results. But yeah, how it works is, for example, if you want to do Google search campaigns, you can have a look at the benchmarks that we have. For example, we see that, for impressions in general, it can cost 20 euros per thousand impressions. We see a click-through rate of 2%. It's very high, but that's very standard with search engine ads, of course. Cost per click of 1.75 euros, and we see a conversion rate of 3%. So you can just have a look at your own data, see if you see this too. If your click-through rate is lower, maybe there are ways to increase that. If your conversion rate is lower, maybe there's a way to increase that. In the end, you have to take it together, right? Because if you still close very good clients from maybe a click-through rate of 1%, that's in the end as well good. But I think for a digital marketer or a marketer specifically, these benchmarks are very nice to just have an idea. So let's say you have 1,000 euros to spend. That should then deliver you at least 5,000 impressions, around 570 clicks or website visits, or 150 conversions or leads on your website. So we'll get to the ROI forecasting because that's, of course, what we will go to. Then there's LinkedIn ads. Cost per 1,000 views is a little bit more expensive. It's 25 euros. Click-through rate is lower, of course, because people are not asking something from you, you're asking something from them. Cost per click is 450. Cost per lead is 20 euros. So if you spend 1,000 euros, you should have 40,000 impressions, 225 clicks, 50 conversions. And what you can always do is just check your campaigns. Either it's Google Ads or LinkedIn ads, your own benchmarks. You can benchmark your overall campaign. You can benchmark everything that you've been doing in the past. That's up to you. But that's basically how you can use the numbers here that we have been presenting. And before I go, I get another question, I believe. So let me navigate. Are these benchmarks for the life science markets European or general? I would say life sciences markets. So we have biotech clients, pharma clients, medtech clients. So all of them together. This is not based on region. So the life sciences markets typically encompass, US and Europe. So I would say most of the data comes from targeting companies in these countries. Sometimes we do outside of those areas as well, but I would say general life sciences markets, so to say. If I had to choose putting budget on LinkedIn or Google Ads, would you say get better ROI on LinkedIn ads as it's possible to target your audience better? Yeah, that depends on your. Sorry for saying that depends again. It's always the answer. It depends on your the goals. In general, ideally you balance it because Google Ads, when you're capturing leads, those are people who need your service right now. They will search for biochemical services, proteomics, for example. And you want to be the first one that they see because they have an urgent need. So in that regard, it's a good quality lead. On LinkedIn, you can target better, typically. But on the other hand, people who search for biochemical type of keywords are also exactly within your audience. So I would do both. Maybe LinkedIn provides faster results in some cases. Sorry, Google provides faster results because people have a need now, whereas LinkedIn, you are nurturing them still. They have to see your ad. So that's a bit my, uh, I hope not so vague answer. So yeah, I think both are good. Google search, fast results. LinkedIn ads maybe less fast. Results can be the same in the end, depending on your case. Now we are at ROI calculation. So how to determine your ROI? This is a super easy way to calculate your ROI, which unfortunately in our case it's not, but basically you have your deal value and then the deal value, you track your customer acquisition cost. Um, and in some cases, customer acquisition deal value is very clear. So some of you maybe have a e-commerce part of your website where you can purchase things and you have the data available, whereas maybe services websites, services companies don't have that. But in the end, if you have this formula, how much did you earn on a deal? How much did it cost to get that deal? And then divided by the customer acquisition cost. That's a bit your ROI. So this customer acquisition cost is actually something you want to predict. Um, I see a question from the previous topic. I'll go ahead and see if we have enough time. Otherwise, I'll get back to that. So it starts with the deal value. I don't know. Do you guys actually know the deal value? Because sometimes marketers have a very clear view of that. Sometimes they don't. That can have to do with the complexity of the service. But it's good to ask your commercial director or sales colleagues what the average deal value is. Just ask them, how does a contract typically look like? What do people purchase? What does the average sale look like? And it's okay if it's an estimation. If someone says, I think it's between 100 and 200,000 per deal, it's okay. And you just take that for the ROI. Just at the quick analysis, you see web shops, like I just showed you, one with the e-commerce area where you can buy chemicals, can be between 100 and 5,000 per deal, maybe. Analytic services, maybe a little bit more. Consulting, contract research, where you have bigger deals, it can all add up. So, and the funny thing is you're using the same channels. So for some people, for example, for contract research, yeah, if you pay €1 per click and you have the same conversion rates, that's absolutely a higher ROI. But then again, maybe the search volume is less. Less people are searching for contract research than chemicals. That it all depends. It all depends. But it's super interesting to have a look at that. What I want to show here, what I'm super passionate about, is the ROI in life science is super high. Definitely, if you compare it to other industries. I think in terms of competition, it is relatively limited. In terms of competition, I mean the bidding, right? If you want to start a travel agency, and because that has been your lifetime dream to organize travels to through the Alps, you start a website and you do ads. Chances are you have a lot of people bidding on the same keywords. You have more search volume, but still, there's a lot of people bidding on the same keywords. Um, and still, funny enough, you have to pay this almost the same amount. If we're talking about a CPC between 1 and 3, 5 euro, it's not that much difference in the end if you look at your whole business model. So if we're talking about deal values of 100,000, then absolutely digital marketing is a very, very, very rewarding way to increase your business. And we see that the industry is realizing this, but yeah, I think there's a positive trend in that regard, that people are realizing that, but the data is clear in that regard. So the customer acquisition cost, yeah, how do you calculate it in an easy way? It's basically your sales and marketing cost divided by the number of clients. It's more complex in that regard, because for marketing departments, You have multiple activities running. You're going to events. You have campaigns on LinkedIn. You have campaigns on Google Ads, and you have to also show maybe to your team that it's all working. So how do you calculate that? That's where those benchmarks come in. For conferences and offline events, we also recommend tracking as much as possible. For example, if you have flyers with QR codes for specific information, for example, have a look at our brochure or have a look at our pricing sheet, then always use a QR code because then you have an indication if you track them well, if those people have been converted, or you can sort of benchmark estimate how much of those people would turn into clients. You can also use forms during events. So you make them fill in an online form to receive more information from your from a tablet or again from a QR code. That's up to you. There are different ways to do that. Um, but I think we need to move further to the benchmarking to show you how we forecast that a little bit more. So how do you forecast? This is just an example. There are some benchmarks that we have for you. For example, we can show per campaign the CTR, the CPC. Remember the 1.75, the conversion rate. But you, of course, generate leads. And some leads are considered marketing qualified leads, which means that they subscribe to an email newsletter. But you also have leads who actually want to talk with you about a certain offer that you have, about a certain service that you offer. So there's a difference in that. So we recommend to also have a look at your own marketing qualified lead versus sales qualified lead rate. So from the leads you have generated in your campaigns, from which you have the benchmarks, which is the CTR, the CPC, how many percent, and this is something you have to discuss with your team, how many percent of the marketing qualified leads, of your email subscribers, of your people you have in your CRM actually become someone who want to have a talk, someone who request more information about the service. And from those people, how much people are actually a real opportunity, sales opportunity, to how many of them have you been able to send an offer? And how many of them become a customer? That's in the end, through these rates that you had. You started out with 514 MQLs from your Google Ads campaigns, from your LinkedIn Ads campaigns, whatever you did. Then you had 15 offers that you sent, you had 15 opportunities. Four of them became a customer. The average deal value in your case is 80,000. So the revenue, by the way, that this has been rounded up, so it doesn't add up exactly with the numbers because the decimals have been removed. Uh, but in the end, you can calculate an ROI, and then in this case, it would be 500% for your marketing department, and that's something you can discuss also with your with your commercial director, with your CEO. Which ROI do you exactly need to accomplish the growth? And of course, it has to be realistic and according to the SMART goal. So these are basically some, we went through the budgeting trends. We went through the budgeting methods to inspire you on how to approach your budget. I shared all the benchmarks that we have with you, and I showed an example of how to calculate and which aspects you actually need to calculate your ROI and forecast it. I see we have 11 minutes left, so I saw some questions coming in. So I'll definitely focus on that one. For email campaigns, you show that the average bounce rate is 30%. Do you know why that is? Yes, I think. Sorry, was it exactly the bounce rate? Because it can be a non-optimized version of our one. Let me see. Forwarding rate, touches, list growth, conversion rate. I think this is not a correct. I think it was a different type of rate. I have to dive into that good question because it doesn't make sense compared to the open rate. So kindly ask you to ignore this one. In this new version that we updated yesterday, I think it's important always to you look at your open rate. You want to know how many people open your mails because that in the end also explains something about the quality of your lead. You don't want to have leads. And I think that's also the discussion maybe you sometimes have with sales from a marketing perspective. They say the lead isn't good, and you can say, well, I have a high open rate. They're constantly involved, so maybe there's something else we can do to close them. Are there any other questions since we have 10 minutes left? Feel free to ask them. Let me see. There was one question, I believe, about China, wasn't it? Do you have information about the Chinese market? How do they behave? I don't have information right now. If you want to look at your market in China, some interesting things to do is you can analyze the keyword searches. So if you want to sell your product there and you want to do Google ad campaigns, you can look at your keywords that you typically target. We have another webinar about keyword research that I can share. And there you can see the search volumes per region. I think that can give you an indication of the opportunity because search volumes in the end give an idea of how big your market is. On LinkedIn, you can have a look at how many people are active on LinkedIn. And the best way we always love to do things is just do test campaigns. Start small, maybe a few hundred per month. Do some benchmarking. Yeah, of course, they have different social media channels. My colleague has been working on China, but to be honest, I don't have those insights, but I can ask. It's super interesting market in the end. In our regards, entering the Chinese market works for very specific services that they need that they do not have there. They might go more quickly with local party, but it's super interesting business case. Do you have more benchmark on conversion rate and ROI calculations on B2B service providers for different marketing activities? If you mean with different marketing activities, for example, events and such, I don't have them. I only have them for the channels. So, for example, LinkedIn ads, Google ads, your website maybe. What else have we done? We use Bing also. We integrate Google Ads with Bing Ads because still people are searching there. We have display, of course, when you want to show your ad on an external website. Any recommendations for tools to track competitor ads, both for Google and LinkedIn? We're a big fan of SEMrush in general because you can see in SEMrush which keywords your competitors are targeting. SEMrush, I think it costs a few hundreds euros, but we can also yeah make some quick reports for you based on your competitors. You can ask us, and maybe I can ask my team member to send it to you. Um, Let me see. For Google, you actually Google has a feature where you can say what they are exactly looking for. My one of my colleagues is always super passionate about this topic of peeking on your competitors. We do have a webinar about that I can share, but there are definitely some tools within SEMrush and also within Google Ads. From Vincent, open and click rate are often inducing big errors due to robots opening email automatically. Do you have any data about the base error rate to consider? We do take bots into consideration, of course, but I think that if you actually look at your conversion rate, in the end, it's about the conversion and sale. In the end, people ask us, did we reach our market? Did we reach our business goal or not? And in that regard, I think it always levels up anyway. It sort of normalizes, you know, whether there are bots or not. It's about the calculation of the end results in that regard. Um, Let me see. We have 5 minutes left. Any other questions from your side? If not, then like I said, we're going to do this more often. The goal is to do this more every month. I believe the next one is going to be about web development, if I'm correct, but I have to check with the colleagues. If you have questions for us, we'll send you the slides. We'll send you this recording. If you have other questions with us about your budgeting strategies for next year, we're always happy to just have a chat. I could send a link also to book a meeting with my colleague Maurice. He's always available just to have a discussion about your goals. Maybe you want to check in on some stuff. Maybe you have other questions. But other than that, yeah, very happy to have you as sort of our community members. We see most of you also coming back, so we're really happy to engage with you more and more often. And yeah, really looking forward to seeing you more and more. So thanks. Enjoy the rest of your day, and I hope to see you the next time.